tip things off as we approach the 7 o'clock hour. Welcome to Startup Grind Atlanta. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Kind of what we do in these first few minutes, we had our networking session out there in the bar. Before we get started, generally I like to let, because I have small business owners, I like to let each person kind of maybe introduce themselves, give a snapshot about their business. This is an opportunity to let people know who you are out here. Again, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but it would be nice if we could do it, maybe not take up a lot of time. We only have a few minutes before we want to get started, but I do like to give every person a chance to do that. My name is Michael Clay. I'm the director of Startup Grind. My small business is called Nightfly Wireless Advisors. My business focuses that I add wireless to anything and everything that you might want to add wireless to. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming, as well as thank our guests tonight, Judith, Winfrey, and Hadi Irvani from Peachdish. And I'd like to maybe ask if each of you could spend just a second talking about who you are, what your business is.
We're so excited to be in this wonderful space. It's a really great building, and I'm very excited about all the growth here in town, being Atlanta myself.
Do you want to introduce yourself, or you want me to introduce you?
I will. So I'll start off and say hi. My name is Hadi. I'm the founder of Peachdish. We're a meal kit delivery company. We started off as a startup and just a crazy idea on a napkin in the garage of my house, maybe 3 years ago. And from there, we've evolved and gotten some really great, rich feedback to become the preeminent meal kit company in the country, focused on delivering high quality ingredients, local ingredients to people's houses all across the nation. And we've done this through sort of focusing on quality and learning a lot of lessons along the way. And I think so today we'll sort of go through some of that entrepreneurial adventure that I've had in the past 3 years and some lessons that I've learned. And hopefully I can impart to everyone else in terms of sharing our mistakes so that we can learn from our mistakes and also sort of some of our successes.
My name is Judith Winfrey. I'm the president of Peachdish. I'm here today really as the facilitator and interviewer of Hadi. Hadi and I work together on a daily basis, and thought it would be fun for me just to sort of ask him some of the way back perspective questions. We also have some submitted questions. Thank you very much. So we'll jump right in. And you've already said what the business is, but do you want to tell us why you started it?
So I started Peachdish because I wanted to get into a really, really hard business. I wanted to challenge myself to do something that's really, really hard. I don't want to do something that's easy. It's more fun to do something that's hard and challenging. And I had this problem, which was I love to entertain, I love to have these great dinner parties, but finding those really, really good ingredients was really, really, really tough. And so I would go from one side of town to the other side of town to go and find and look for really great quality ingredients such as passion fruits or exotic ingredients that I couldn't find, and I couldn't sort of get them at my local grocery stores. So I started Peachdish because I wanted to allow people to have access to hard to find ingredients. And along the way, I realized that people don't know how to cook. So when I started off, I just sent food in a box because I thought people knew how to cook. And there was no need for a recipe, but that's really.
So you love cooking and you love entertaining, but your background is actually a little bit different than food.
Yeah.
You have some e-commerce in your background.
So I used to sort of, I started off sort of not knowing what I wanted to do. So I wasn't as fortunate as you are to go right out of college and start my own company, which I wish I had done so. So anyone who's going to be an entrepreneur, you should really almost do that as your first thing. I highly recommend that. And I found out what my calling was, which was the e-commerce sector, because I had some success with selling plastic shoes for my family's shoe business, and moved that business over to Amazon. And in about a 3-year period, grew that from about $1 million business to over a $4 million business, and had lots of success. And but it wasn't. It was fun and it was great, but it's not sort of what I really loved. I mean, the products that I love is food, what sort of got me to sort of go and make that jump was I met these lawyers, and lawyers have such boring jobs. All they do is they move bits of paper up and down and like do editing. If they're in the courtroom, it's kind of fun, but otherwise these were sort of transactional corporate lawyers who sort of went to Virginia law school and sort of knew them. But what they sort of loved was their days in college when they had all the girls going around in their preppy clothing. So they started this business called Country Club Prep, and they were so excited about it that that's all they would think about and do was sort of preppy clothing. So I helped them, telling them, okay, if you're sending out an email marketing campaign, you could say, hey, this is the discount. I'll give you this marketing discount. Or something that works much better is to give them a mystery discount. Then people go, they put the item in their cart, and they go check out. So having helped them a little bit with their success of their growth, I decided to take the plunge and start my own meal kit business. Not thinking that I know things about food, but I didn't really know much about food. So
I think that's probably a pretty good segue to the second question, which was, how was it that we met and started working together?
So Judith and I met at a dinner for Alice Waters, and we were both really, really fortunate that we have this friend, Carolyn Carr, who's this sort of local crazy artist who is friends with Alice, and had this dinner for Alice Waters. And there was this dinner, the chef was getting stoned.
You are on camera.
The chef was having a fun time, and it was a very warm evening. And then we realized that we had this discussion whether the sort of merits of sort of conventional versus organic food. And I was convinced that sending conventional food was better because it lasted longer. However, later on, Judith sort of convinced me because I had to eat some of the chemicals that they put in the food that I realized that no, this food that you put in the chemicals is really, really bad for you. And I didn't really realize or understand all of these different aspects of food. So we met at this dinner for Alice Waters. We had this great discussion. Judith was running a large $20 million restaurant group, and I was this crazy kid shipping food in a box, and I sort of started to sort of recruit some young, good-looking people to put on my website so that I looked like I had more of a company than I really did. So it was just me, but it's like, well, how do I make it appear as if I'm much bigger than I really am? So I was like, okay, let me get my best-looking friends, my smartest-looking friends, and put them all on my website. So I have 8 or 12 people on my website looking all really good, and I've got this company. Yeah, great, okay. No, only one person actually does everything. Everyone else is just a good-looking face. But that's how it started off.
So I did tell you that I thought you were crazy the first time that we met, and then about a year later, ran into you again, and the business was going. It was up and running, and with a background in food and food production and agriculture, I came on board to help form that part of the product. And we've been working side by side for about 2 years. What's been the hardest day at Peachdish for you?
So we've had our lives threatened. Before I started in this business, I just started doing it in the garage of my house. Then I moved it out to these middlemen who are in the produce industry, and I started with a sort of naive team. And then when Judith came along, we had a team of professionals. But in the meantime, I had sort of met these individuals. So there, down in the produce market, there are sort of individuals who sort of work in all sorts of, if I can say so, all sorts of shady industries. who exploits people in terms of labor in Florida for tomatoes. So they'll sort of bring in slave labor on tomatoes. There are sort of organized crime up from New York comes down, and then there are sort of cartels and other characters. So having sort of met those other people, there was one gentleman who I think had sort of threatened Judith's life, and that was one of the worst days. But I think another...
So I just have to say, a little bit of context. I'll give you a little more context.
Tell us it wasn't because of the tomato.
It wasn't because of the tomato.
It was because of money. That's what it all comes down to. So I was pushing him really hard on money, and he told me that I was going to end up in a dumpster. And it's funny that that's one of your worst days, because for me, that was really, really early on, and it was one of the best days because you were so heroic. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy just told me that he was going to kill me and put me in a dumpster. And I kept my cool. I think I responded to him by saying, does it have to be a dumpster or whatever? But Hadi was like, you have to get out of here. You just have to go. You're not safe. And he literally packed up our warehouse, put it all in a tractor trailer, single-handedly, found a new place for us to work within like 24 hours. It was amazing. This guy's energy is unstoppable.
So that was maybe one of the worst days. Another, I guess, probably really, really bad day was, so this was sort of Valentine's Day of 2013, and we've done this 14, we've done this all really exciting thing, and we've got, we're really happy, we've got lots of sales, we've got $20,000 of sales going out, and there's then this snowstorm hits, and all of the boxes are stuck at the UPS warehouse, and all these people have planned all their Valentine's dates, and we need to say, okay, well, what do we do with the small business? We could go back. We can't refund everyone. How do we sort of get them? What happens? So that was a really, really stressful period. But at the end of the day, you just need to have faith. You need to say, look, I'm here, I'm going, I'm working, I'm getting these things done, and I'm so much more lucky than all these other people who don't even have sort of food in their stomachs or can only have one meal a week or one meal a day. So no matter what the adversity is, it's nothing compared to other people's problems. So I think with everything, you just need to smile, have that positive attitude, and just continue and go for it.
It's true. I can attest to the fact that he applies that to every day. I think it's pretty amazing, and some of you who know us have probably heard me say before that I think you are one of the most spiritually evolved people I've ever been around, because he's always in the present. I've never seen him upset or perturbed, even when things are going really badly or there's a lot of challenges. Usually he says, I picked this because it's the hardest business, which isn't exactly what you want to hear on a hard day. But it's pretty cool. It's a cool thing about you.
Thank you.
So what's been one of the best days?
So I think one of the best days, and like every day nowadays is the best day because every day is a record day. But I think some of the sort of best days were we were on the Today Show, which was it was a really exciting day, and we were also sort of on 11 Alive News. And during those days, one of the most exciting feelings, it's kind of, it's just this spike. So your website's going along like this, and you have the traffic, and you have these people coming on, your servers are going, and then all of a sudden the traffic hits, and you have like 100, and then you have like 200, and then 300, and then 900 concurrent visitors on your website. So what happens during those days is a regular server wouldn't be able to handle all that traffic. So we actually fire up other servers during those days for peaks, and put those servers online to be able to go and handle all that traffic. So those days are amazing days.
Yeah, those are fun days. This is one I'd like to know the answer to. How do you make decisions?
So I think what I've learned is that us guys go and make a lot of our decisions from our gut. So it's really important to go and have that like gut instinct, but we just go for decisions. So a lot of the times our decisions aren't that right decision, but it's good to sort of go for it. We don't maybe analyze decisions as well as we should, but I think that's generally how I go for decisions. And making a decision is sort of one way to go or not to go. I'm an economist by training, so I like to sort of go and look at things from an economics perspective and say, okay, what's the decision and what's the cost if I go and fail? And it's okay to go and fail if the cost of failure is really, really small. So I think most of the time I say, okay, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's just wasting a little bit of time or a little bit of resources, and how much of that resource or what's that downside? If it's not much, I'll just go and take that decision and just go for it, and then figure out, okay, whoops, maybe I shouldn't have done this, step out or step back. But I'm generally very gung-ho in terms of going for decisions. And I think that's something that's in my nature, but I think sort of what's really great about having you is that you help say, okay, no, you're the yin for my yang. So us guys we just go more rationally, and I think that sort of women think about things more rationally than irrationally. So I think that probably leads me to sort of understanding why I didn't understand this before, but having diversity in companies and organizations is so important to be able to go and make those proper right decisions, so we don't end up in a crisis like the financial crisis of 2007, because too many people were all thinking and modeling things just in one way.
So we're going to take you back to the past. I know that your grandfather is a really big influence and a really big hero to you. What lessons did he teach you?
So my grandfather was a great guy, and he sort of adopted a lot of kids and was a very successful business person. And one of the things that he said he said a couple of things in my life, but one of the things that I think was the sort of first thing that I'd like to say, impart on you, is he told me, Hadi, you're ugly. So you have to smile so you look good. And I think that's a really, really important thing. Tell yourself you're ugly, but if you smile, you look good. So you always smile. And I think the other thing is sort of really like look at things from the larger picture and figure out how you can get other people to help you get things done. And I think that's really applied with Peachdish in terms of us going and having some of that success is, okay, you're this small company who's come around and started, but what can help take you then to that next level? Are there any partners? Can you leverage a relationship with UPS to go take you to that next level? Can you, for example, go and get $20,000 of Amazon credits? Google offers you $100,000 of cloud credit, but I actually prefer that $20,000 of Amazon credit is actually worth more than that Google credit. But getting that free credit, go and do that. What other free programs are there that you can go and leverage as yourself as an entrepreneur? And that's really helped us sort of bootstrap and grow Peachdish, is to say, okay, well, what other partners are there to be able to sort of help go and look at things from a larger picture, to help you and your team go in the direction that you want to go. So I think always looking at things from the large picture is very important, and that's something that he told me.
What are some of the challenges, the technical challenges of the business?
So it's a really, really tough business. It's an e-commerce business in which we ship perishable food, and Judith helped make the business even more challenging because we're working with local farmers. So we have to say, okay, well, if the farmer doesn't quite show up, or we only have a certain amount of that thing, so we've created sellout limits, and then we have to pack all these ingredients and go and ship them to the consumers. And we have a really short turnaround time in terms of bringing the inventory in, packing it, and shipping it out. It's really sort of a 36-hour turnaround time in terms of its core, and all these customers are going and making these decisions. So we could have built it all ourselves, and we did build a lot of our systems ourselves, but we've also sort of leveraged a lot of out-of-the-box software. So some of our competitors have, for example, gone and written all their own API integrations. We've leveraged systems from a technological perspective, such as ShipStation, that have their own integrations and have some software that make it easy to do things. So I think leveraging existing softwares and frameworks really helps you make your life much easier. Don't go and reinvent the wheel. Or for example, like when we go get lots of traffic on our website, we do something which is called auto scaling up. So basically more and more servers start to fire up. And we do this through leveraging Amazon's Elastic Beanstalk application and functionality. So that does it automatically for us, as opposed to us having to write the program or the application to go do that. So.
Yeah, so there's, I mean, almost every aspect of the business is challenging, from the technical side on the web to the shipping perishable food to the logistics to the weather. It really is an incredibly complex business, and you're right, I did make it more complex by insisting that we work directly with farmers, but I also think I made it better.
You made it so much better. So I think and I sort of kissed the ground of where Judith sort of walks, and that what we've sort of realized is we can't compete with our competitors on price. And we have some competitors who are out there, they've raised a lot of money, but at the end of the day, the food that you put in your mouth is so important. It's that quality of the food and that experience. So it's not going and having more and more food. You want to have that best quality food. You want to go and get those sprouts from a farmer in middle Georgia who only grows $400 worth of sprouts. It's really tough for that farmer in middle Georgia who's growing those sprouts to go and have a market or somewhere to go sell those sprouts. But with Peachdish, we come in and be the solution because we can put it in a menu. We can limit the number of people who can go and buy that menu. And then we can actually go and ship those sprouts, which traditionally maybe have like a 5-day shelf life or 7-day shelf life. Because we can time it right, we can then put it in the boxes and go and ship it in a meal kit to those consumers.
Yeah, and I think it also means that in general, our customers are getting much, much fresher food. So a farmer harvests on a Sunday, brings it to our dock, we put it in a box on a Monday, it gets to you on a Tuesday. That's incredibly fresh and way fresher than anything you can get at a store. Talk a little bit about our team. What are the various positions and who are the people?
So starting off as in a startup and as you're sort of growing, I couldn't really afford to go and hire a developer who would sort of go work for Google. And I really it was like, okay, I was putting all these good-looking people on the websites, making them look good, but how do we sort of go and get the team going? Well, I guess the beautiful thing about you're an internet business, so leverage internet resources. Our main developer, his name is Pengyi, and he's in Yantai, China. And I found him through a website called Fiverr, which is you can get anything done for $5, whether it's launching a WordPress site. And so we sort of connected through the internet, and he's helped us. And then we have a gentleman, Karilla, who is sort of helping us out in customer service. But then we've also now been able to sort of attract some really great talent. So we've got some GE, Six Sigma, Georgia Tech graduates who used to work at GE, who we've now recruited to Peachdish. So we've got a great team in that sense. And then from a culinary...
What does the GE person do?
So she's the sort of product manager. And then we've also sort of got a great culinary team who is led by a gentleman called Seth, who used to run the kitchen at Bacchanalia. And as a startup, one of the most brilliant things that I've sort of learned is leverage contract labor. So we have a lady who helps us do our recipe editing and proof writing. Very, very limited focus and work, but she's an expert in just doing just that one thing for us and making sure that the recipes are good and followed. As a result of her efforts, we were voted, and the whole teams, but our recipes are easier to follow than all of our competitors. And we were voted by the New York Observer as the best quality in the country. So I think one of the pieces that I'm sort of aiming at is really focusing in on that quality and that attention to detail, and having that good quality products that you go sell. Having the quality people is really important. And if you can't afford them, just afford them for a short period of time, because that will then let you get that good quality. Don't compromise on quality.
So you left out some team members.
I did, yeah.
You did.
So we've got Judith.
I was not talking about you.
Joseph.
We have a visual storyteller.
Oh.
We have a registered dietitian.
Okay, so we have a visual storyteller.
You can tell the charts are important to him.
So this wasn't really important to me, but it's actually been really important, is good photography. Because people buy with their eyes, and I think having a good eye, good photography has been key. So we've got a great visual storyteller, and that's really been important in all the businesses that I had before, and everything that continues. Having good photography is key. Don't waste money on cheap photography. And then the other thing is making sure that your product has integrity. Our registered dietitian helps sort of go and say, okay, don't put too much of this ingredient in, and make sure that it's a good product. And I think having a good product has sort of led Judith and then now me to think about this concept, which we hope the laws in Georgia will become like that in California, of becoming a B corporation, which is how do you, the things that you do it not just for yourself, but also sort of for your employees and for your customers and for the other stakeholders. So looking at your company and saying, okay, we're creating this extra value in society, what other things can we do? And make sure that you make your decisions in looking at all of the stakeholders who are involved.
Yes.
Angela Martin, I've been a Peachdish subscriber since October of 2013, and I've seen the evolution of the product from, it was the very first chef, and it was a 3-course meal, so it was an appetizer, an entree, and dessert, and I always thought, how the heck is he making any money? Because the cost per meal, it seemed like he was spending more in ingredients than what I was paying for the service. So I have a couple questions, because I've seen the evolution. Two things I would like to see is a Peachdish Premium, where I prepay for a month's worth of services, so I've tried all of his competitors as well, and what he said about the visual component, that absolutely is it. And he has 8 menus that he releases at the start of the month, so you have 8 menus to choose from each week, and he releases 4 weeks of menus. Nobody else does that. There's one company in particular that Martha Stewart's buddied up with, and they don't show you what you're buying, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess Martha's gonna send me something, maybe I'll like it. I'll just spend $60. And so I can't stand that, but I love how he has the 8 menu. Nobody else does 8 menus. And the food, I have literally been like 2 weeks behind on cooking something, and everything is still super fresh. Wow. And it's because of the farmers. And then I, for a bit, worked for a farming startup, and I learned that people, when you buy your groceries from the grocery store, it's harvested before the food is ripe. So the nutrition it degrades as it ripens. Mm-hmm. And because it's all locally sourced, it's just the flavor. I can look through my Instagram feed and still taste the flavor of some of my best dishes. And with his competitors, no flavor. And I've tried them because I'm like, oh, but this sounds kind of interesting. Maybe I'll like this more than Peachdish. And no, never do. So I would like to see a Peachdish Premium where I prepay like $200 a month on the first of the month, and then I choose my menu so that I don't have to think about it. Okay. Because I'm going back and I'm always having to think, okay, did you choose? Because the sellout, what he talked about earlier, always happens, and it's always like, they sold out of the one they really wanted. So I hate that. And as a premium member, I'll never get the sellout. And then like that sometimes you guys do the really good cookies that I see at Whole Foods. So if I could get like cookie confirmation with my Peachdish premium, and the business side of that, you would have your prepaid meal, so you'd have that money banked before I receive the meal.
So the cookies would be the incentive to prepay?
The cookies,
People do go crazy for these cookies.
they're so good. They're the best. And yeah, the cookies would be, and I like the way Peachdish Premium sounds. And being able to choose everything in one bowl. And because you're a Peachdish Premium member, you get a preview of everything that's going to be there. So you know what you're going to do at the first month. A lot of people with families, they do the food prep on Sundays, right? So you don't have to, you do all your food prep on the first of the month. And $200 is nothing when you think about your food budget and what you're thinking about the first of the month anyway. So I like that. And then I would like to tell you not right now, but afterwards, some of my favorite meals, so that way you can put them back in. Because I'm like, why are they not redoing that this summer? Last summer, that was such a hit. I loved it. And then so I missed last week's, I forgot to order, and then I missed the delivery, so I tried to recreate my favorite Peachdish meals, and it was double the cost to recreate them with generic Whole Foods branded materials. And I was like, what? And it was like very concerted effort of not putting anything else in the basket except for the ingredients.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and it's because there's no food waste with the meal kit. You get just exactly what you need to cook the dish. And so I
chose deliberately meals that had no waste. Like I chose the salmon because that was the least amount of ingredients, and so there wasn't gonna be waste. Like I wasn't buying a whole box of thyme and only using 2 sprigs. So I was very methodical about it was a competition. I was trying to gamify my Peachdish experience to see if I could get it cheaper than what Peachdish was delivering. But I couldn't get it cheaper. You won, and the flavor was better.
You guys got
We won.
That's true. I have a question, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you can go first. I'll go after you.
I haven't heard you describe any tasters. Do you have any openings for tasters? So that's a job I'm interested in. What I'm here.
So that's a great question, and it sort of talks to sort of this evolution. So we started off, and I only ship things on a Tuesday because not all packages get to everyone exactly on time. And Tuesday was the best day. So on Tuesdays, I would write the menu based on what I would find locally that's really, really fresh. So seasonal food. And then sort of go and send the menu and then go and do it. But now we test everything maybe 3 or 4 times. So it gets tested before, it gets tested twice before it goes and gets tested at the test kitchen. So if you work with one of the chefs or one of the contributing chefs, you can taste it then. Okay. And then if you want to taste it for a 3rd time, you can taste it at the test kitchen. So there's sort of 3 times to go and taste 8 of the different meals, which one of them is a sort of seasonal. So essentially you could do about 15 tastes a week if you're really into tasting. But I think
this is being recorded.
to go and do the tasting, I think the best thing is just to email Seth and ask him if you can come to a tasting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and everyone who works in the test kitchen is officially a taster and is encouraged to really critique the dishes and to give feedback and to make sure that it's as flavorful as we can possibly make it. And one of the people, it's actually our visual storyteller, she has what's developed into her own catchphrase in the test kitchen when she really likes a dish. She's like, that's going in my box.
Another question over here.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
One of them was, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you like find the farmers and like do you pick the recipes based on the ingredients you're gonna get or the ingredients you see coming down the pike, or is it you pick the recipe and then find the ingredients?
So there's a sort of culinary team who develops the recipes. And then they work with the farmers. I think this November we're actually launching like a little conference type thing with some of our farmers to go and say, okay, we want you to plot these rows of land for this specific ingredient for harvest in the future. Kind of like this concept of going and having that assurance. Because of the perishability of the food, having that assurance that you have your market is something that we do. And then Georgia, we're really lucky, has one of the longest growing seasons, and there's lots of different really great fruits and vegetables. So from a larger economic perspective, Bill Gates is actually sort of long Georgia agriculture, and Bill Gates is a really smart guy. And why is he sort of coming and doing it? Things are drying up in California. We've got a really great growing season, and we've got really, really great land. But I think we're leveraging our farming resources enough, so we're trying to sort of help out to say, how do we sort of go and make, take this great produce from Georgia and the South and go and ship that sort of nationwide, because it's so important, I think, to go and eat fresh. And I didn't really realize this before learning from Judith, and Judith really knows a lot about food, is that all these hormones that are in the food, in terms of the meat, it really relates to the health in terms of why people have anxiety. These animals get anxious. It's because of the hormones. So not having any of this meat will actually help you from a mental perspective and prevent all this sort of drug crisis that's going on.
I'm going to stop you right there just to clarify, because I don't want, we use proteins, we use animal-based proteins, but we do really try to keep the meats very clean and also directly sourced from farmers as much as possible. So it's not all meat, we just try to use really clean meat. And I want to maybe more specifically answer your question about the seasonality. So we have basically a sort of target calendar of what we know is going to be in season in these certain areas. Or at these certain times, and that's how we write our recipes. We write our recipes, when I first came on board, as Hadi said, the recipes were written maybe the day that the shipment was gonna go out, and it was a little bit harrowing for me, and
2 days before.
okay.
And you said the day before. I did some planning.
That's 48 hours.
So we've been like pushing to get 8-10 weeks out, and this year one of the things we're pushing on is to actually get a full year out, so that right now in the last week of July we know what's in season, and we're testing for the recipe that will serve the following July. But even that is not going to be super precise, because the weather's going to change, or there's going to be some blight, or there's going to be some pest that comes on a plane from China that wipes out all the green beans in Georgia. So it's interesting, it's complicated, and we're dealing with the same kinds of things that the farmers are dealing with in terms of sourcing.
And then just to dovetail on the recipes, each recipe is anywhere between 500 to 800 calories. And it's clean food. And the New York Times just a couple weeks ago had an article on why exercise for a half an hour and burn 300 calories when you can just cook your own food and save the calories.
And I think sort of one other thing in terms of this sort of seasonality is learning about these fun ingredients. So I'm not sure if you know about this ingredient, it's called ramps, but I didn't really know about it, and I thought I knew a little bit about food, and it's basically these spring onions that grow in Appalachia, and they grow in the wild. So it's a really, really short season, like 2 or 3 weeks. And so going and testing one of those recipes, we've tested it in last spring, so that next spring when it comes out, we have our ramps dish, and it's all ready to go with the sources of these wild ramps. So I think one of the great exciting things is going and taking really good food and sending it to these places that don't have these hard to find varieties. So in terms of the startup, I was going really, really broad, and what I found with the internet and this internet Peachdish is that there are these special niches where, okay, you can only get certain types of tomatoes in the rest of the country. You get the ones that are really, really easy to ship, but those items don't taste as good as these other types of tomatoes. So by having the internet, by having a meal kit business, we're able to go and save and go and sort of sell people, to provide them with these really tough to find ingredients, which is really exciting.
That is exciting. Should I have another question? Yeah. I've got to your questions too, I promise.
So you're talking about, it seems like you kind of have to like be able to pivot a little bit on the turn of a dime too. So like, how do you like adapt to when things happen like the Valentine's Day incident? Like, what did you do for that? Like, how do you?
So I think the first thing is really just having faith to say, okay, like, what do we do? How do we sort of go make the situation right? But I think sort of being able to pivot on the head of the dime, you have to wear sneakers, be flexible, be really ready to go and move, and not sort of take no for an answer. Or really, I think it's really that internal thing of saying, okay, nothing's going to let me down. Nothing, I mean, you go and knock on 50 different doors and people say, no, I don't want your products. No, I don't want your product. No, I don't want this or that. But you figure out a way, and then that 51st door, oh, someone wants it. It gets really, really exciting. So I think it's kind of like being an athlete or being a boxer. You need to sort of just keep on fighting and figuring out, okay, if that doesn't work, well, let me figure out how to get the boxes. So I think during the storm with the Valentine's issue, we went down to the UPS facility through the storm and figured a way to get our packages through charming some people on the telephone to get our packages delivered in time for Valentine's Day. So I think out of I think maybe like 20% of the people, less than 20% of the people didn't get their Valentine's meals, but the other 80% of the people got their Valentine's meals in time and really had a good Valentine's. So that was.
I will say, as a witness to Hadi's spirit and good karma, there are things that would be impossible for many other people. Somehow he can get in and make things happen. So when the task is really, really daunting or really, really scary, I'm like, okay, Hadi, this is one for you. You gotta do that.
So I think sort of like if there's anyone who goes and says no, just figure out another way to sort of go and ask the same question. It's like you've fallen in love with your princess and you want to go and ask her and she says no and no. Well, maybe you can do this, or you can send her a flower or a book or a poem or a chocolate. So you figure out different ways because you really want to go and get your princess.
I know it sounds crazy, but it really works.
I had two last questions.
Okay.
How do you select the chefs? And then the last question is, what's your favorite food memory that you've ever had?
You take food memory, I'll take chefs.
Okay, yeah, so chefs, we have a culinary team, so
Our culinary director works now full-time with us, and he writes probably about 75% of our recipes. But any of you who know, we have a guest chef program where we work with chefs from around the South, and part of what we're trying to do with Peachdish is tell the story of the sort of new Southern cuisine as well. It's not heavy-handed mac and cheese, Paula Deen, fried chicken. Though I like all of those things. I like fried chicken, I like mac and cheese, and sometimes we do that too. But so we work with guest chefs from restaurants and cookbook authors. But anybody who's ever worked with a restaurant chef knows that their recipes could never be applied to a home cook. Like, unless you have a culinary degree, you don't even know what to do with a chef's recipe. So Seth and I work together to identify guest chefs, and then he really acts as a translator. So they hand him usually like a list of ingredients and then some techniques, and he turns that into a recipe that you could do at home. We have found that it's easier to work with guest chefs who have their own cookbook because they've at least been through that process once or twice before. This coming week we are doing a recipe with Kevin Gillespie from Gun Show, and it's a recipe from his second book, I think.
But one of the things in terms of
You got food memory.
finishing off the question, sorry, is writing a recipe for a meal kit is actually even different to a regular recipe because all of those ingredients are right there. So it's really easy to make. You don't need to sort of do as much measuring because some of the ingredients are pre-measured. So it's actually like cooking on not steroids, but really like cooking with an assistant. So it's like cooking and having Seth there, sort of standing around and sort of kind of in the background helping you. So I think it's kind of that next level of sort of cooking, I think. So your question in terms of what's my favorite ingredient?
Food memory.
Food memory. So I love having dinner parties. I have so many food different memories, but I think I like to think about food in seasons, because what I like to have in the summertime is sort of more lighter food than in the wintertime, which is sort of much more heavy, sort of goulashes, etc. So one of my, I think, favorite food memories was probably sort of with my siblings actually going and selling lemons. We picked some lemons from a lemon orchard and went around town and sold lemons. And we had like a competition, sort of lots of siblings would like to go around and have this competition. So we were all like really happy. I was going like, I got some money, my other like siblings got some money. But my little brother did the best. And people didn't realize it, they thought he was a beggar. So he got lots and lots of money from some guys for selling his lemons. So I think that's probably one of my favorite food memories.
Judith, I have a couple of questions that were submitted online.
Awesome.
I'd like to at least get around to. I think you've answered some of them.
Can you step into the camera, like in front, so that we can see you while you're asking questions?
No problem.
All right. So stand in between, like next to the chair. Sit on the chair. I'll just sit on the chair and answer your questions. That'd be great.
So some of the questions that were submitted online by Montina Portis is how do you separate your company from companies like Sunbasket and Blue Apron? I think you talked a little bit about that, but would you like to address that question specifically?
So our focus is really quality, in terms of the quality of our product, in terms of having happy animals for our proteins, especially with regards to Blue Apron. And with regards to Sunbasket, I think it's really having that southern tang and that experience and the passion of who the farmers and the people who we say we are. Sunbasket is also sort of organic and sort of green, but I think really going and providing that culinary expertise and that additional level of technique is something that no one else really goes and does from a passion perspective. So we have that extra passion, I think, and that extra flavor. So.
Thank you. Now the next question, and I think you kind of answered this when you talked about your e-commerce background and around the photography, but it was how are you currently marketing your products online? I have seen your website, it's very vibrant, but is there any kind of method to the way that you design the layout that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'd love to share it, and I think this is great, like in terms of I think startup grind for Google for entrepreneurs. So Google is your #1 friend, and Google is one of the princesses who you want to sort of go and send her the chocolate for the cafe. So how do you be Google's best friend? Your website infrastructure that you have needs to be really, really fast. So having a page response time that's really, really quick. Having your server, when you go scale up, be on multiple different servers and providing really, really good, rich content, and then linking back and making it a good experience for the search engines in terms of what those keywords are, and making sure that you cross all your T's and dot your I's is really, really fundamental. One of the things that I recommend to everyone who's here who's an entrepreneur is make sure you go register your domain for 10 years. Google came out in 2007 and said, depending, if you're in it for the long run, you're going to go and register your domain for 10 years. So it's an indicator in terms of your search. So all of your domains need to be registered for 10 years. So it's really those types of small details that are really important. So make sure you register your domain for 10 years. And sort of feed Google the nicest micro data that they need in terms of good content.
Thank you. Those are the questions I have. If there are any others.
Yeah, I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on that. Why is it important for us to register for 10 years again?
So Google goes and says, okay, Google goes and asks the question, what are you looking at in terms of you as a business owner and how long you're going and looking at it? If I go and buy that 99-year rate or $3.99 with GoDaddy, if you host it on GoDaddy, you're shooting yourself in the foot because servers don't respond as quickly. Mm-hmm. But if you go and register it for 10 years, it's an indicator to Google that you want your domain and your business to go and be around, to go and stand the test of time. You want it to be this one that goes and lasts for a long time. So they were saying, well, what are the different indicators that we can go and say or look at? How fast does that person's server respond? Google inherently are geeks as well, so they go and take that piece of data, which is on the whois, as to how long you've registered your domain, and if you've registered it for a longer period of time, they'll give you more credit versus one of your competitors from an organic search perspective. About 50% of our traffic, or 58% of our traffic, comes from organic search, and that's really key for internet business to do it well.
That is really good data. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Two-part question. Number one, you said that registering your domain with GoDaddy was shooting yourself in the foot. So I wondered why you think that. And then the second part of the question is, would you recommend a HostGator or Google hosting? Who would you recommend?
I recommend Google hosting or Amazon. Part of the reason for that is that if you go to GoDaddy, if you go and use their servers, so you put your content on their servers, essentially what they're doing is they're putting their servers in these big server farms with all these other people, and then Google comes along, and it's a crawler, right? So it comes along and it crawls, and it then goes and looks at the site, and it says, who else is on this server? Oh, I see there's some porn sites there, or I see there's some gambling sites, or I see there's Billy Bob's Chicken. I see there are 50 other different sites on this one server. So it maybe says, okay, this guy maybe hasn't done it well. If you have your own server, then Google goes and crawls it and says, oh wow, this person has their own server. It goes and scales up and scales down. So that's part of the reason for at least sort of once you register your domain to go host it on a different area. The other question in terms of GoDaddy specifically was, I don't know if you remember back in 2012, GoDaddy was against something called SOPA, which was Stop Online Privacy. Every single GoDaddy website went down just because of the way that they put it together. So I wouldn't necessarily go and take that risk of someone else taking out all of GoDaddy servers. It's kind of tough to go do, but a group of hackers did take them all out, and they could do it again.
So who would you recommend?
Amazon AWS is basically the Ferrari,
sure.
And you can pay the same amount that you pay for the Ferrari as you do for driving the GoDaddy rickshaw. So you might as well go drive the GoDaddy Lamborghini because it costs you the exact same amount, or actually even less if you sort of configure it and do it right. So, or you can go to Google as well, and you can get lots of free credit, which is great as well.
Go ahead.
Oh, did you answer other question?
I guess the other part of it was, anytime, and again, I use GoDaddy and I have all my clients on GoDaddy, and I'm not biased at all, that's just what I've been using. So the second part of the question as to the recommendations, so with AWS and with GoDaddy, are you suggesting that you get your own server with those two?
I recommend getting your own server, or at least sort of separating it out, because with some of these server pools, your content is actually stored on the same content as lots of these other people. Mm-hmm. So it's maybe not as efficient as it could be, especially when Google comes and crawls it. The other thing that I highly recommend to go and do is do this thing called CloudFront. So if it's called a CDN, so if someone comes and visits your website from Arizona, you want them to go pull that content from a local data source within there in Arizona. And then I think the other sort of really like necessary thing to do. We've gone to the extent of SSL and EV, which is extended validation, but really making sure that your site is secure and you have that SSL, because the web is evolving to a standard of everyone having secure commerce and secure connections, and I think it's good to do SSL EV with all of your clients who want to spend that extra amount. But
Specifically though for e-commerce, I mean, it sort of depends on what you're doing.
Correct. But I think like really having a secure website. Google have also sort of came out this past year and said, we are looking, you should have your site as a secure HTTPS site. If you don't, you're actually going to be penalized from a search engine perspective.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, I did. So from, people go to YouTube because they want to be educated, they want to be entertained, and I would say go to Facebook for family, fun, and friends. How are you all leveraging your video strategies? So I've looked through your YouTube and I see you have some videos kind of showcasing Peachdish. But are you creating videos at some point where you're going to actually have like a cooking show or teaching people exactly how to walk through the product so that you can leverage that educational part on YouTube, and then on Facebook maybe showing more of your product and getting, so I guess my question is really, how are you leveraging video in your marketing strategy and what are your plans going forward?
So we love video. We try to produce a video with every sort of guest chef that we do, and like some tips and technique videos. We've gotten into live streaming as well, which is a lot of fun. And I think the sort of next level of video that we're really sort of trying to sort of toy around and sort of start to go and experiment with, because I love to do it, is this 3D video.
Yeah.
So wearing the like 3D glasses, and you want to be in the set, you want to be in the test kitchen, eating that food with Chef Zeb. So that's that next level of that sort of we're sort of looking at going and doing, to have those 3D videos, so you can really sort of go and explore it. So that's sort of that's one of the sort of projects that we're working on.
Like actual 3D or like virtual reality? Have you seen like Skybox? That it's like a plugin where you can use it and you can navigate around in the 360 environment. But it's not.
It's not fully immersive.
Yeah, it's not. You don't have to put a headset on. You can do it on YouTube right now.
Yeah, exactly. So so like that, we need to get the cameras to go do that. So a friend who is helping us do that. I think that's really the really exciting thing is everyone not only I guess consuming this 3D video content, but then like potentially I think in the next year we'll all be producing this 3D video content.
So on like a higher level, a lot of what we're doing with video is really just trying to extend the brand and tell more of the story and use it as a way for people to connect more with the dishes or the chefs, or learn a little bit more about what they'll be cooking. A couple of the Facebook Live videos we've done were around a dish a certain week that we knew was a little more complicated, that we were trying to give people a leg up if they wanted to cook along with the chef. It's really hard, but it was fun and interesting.
You know, you spent the first part of the discussion talking about the quality of the food and the ingredients, but then here in the last section, you've really talked about technology. So could maybe you guys answer a question about, from your perspective, what role do you think, because Hadi, you said this to me when we first met, is that really Peachdish is technology meeting the food industry. And I don't know that when I go to your website, I didn't really feel that until you started to explain some of these tips later. I'm like, oh, so this isn't an accident that when I hit Peachdish, it just blows up my screen and these really vibrant. So what role does that play in your overall strategy? Did you really spend a lot of time evolving that technical? And it sounds like you got really smart on it. And I don't know that, I just like to see if you guys could maybe tell me, how do you, from a distribution standpoint, how much of it is the quality and the preparation and the chefs and the testers, and how much of your success would you attribute to knowing about the granularity related to domain, secure websites, and e-commerce?
I think sort of Judith and I sort of talk about this, our business is really 3 businesses in one, and it really is both of them. I mean, fundamentally going and selling food online is really a tough thing. But also sort of selling it in a way that you feel good for yourself, your customers, and your suppliers. I think it's really having that quality product. And I think having that quality product also ties in to technologically how you go and approach your business. So really going and making sure that you go and give Google the best quality experience that you can go and do in the quality to the consumers. And really the way we've done that is through our customers' help. So our customers' mouths and hearts literally have helped us by giving us lots of feedback to go and say, okay, I really want to see more bright images, or I really want to have this program or that program. So us being and going and saying, okay, how did you like your experience? What was good? What was bad? How can we make it better? Has really helped us evolve to where we're shipping out tens of thousands of meals a week, is to have that great quality because of our consumers. So that's really,
Okay.
it's been driven by consumers.
Yeah, they're intertwined in my thinking. And so my background is in restaurants and agriculture, and this is how I think about it. Our storefront is our website. Our restaurant is our website. And if you walked into a restaurant and it was dirty and things were kind of out of line and nobody really was there to help you, it would affect your experience of the food, right? And it would signal to you what the people that are running that restaurant think about their product. So what we're trying to do is have this outstanding, excellent presentation on the web that matches the outstanding, excellent product that you'll get in Peachdish.
Okay, so I know that we've talked about it, and I know you guys are privately held, and I don't know how comfortable you are, but these are small business owners, and your success, I mean, we've talked about it, and I think a lot of us have experienced your website. Can you give us some idea, because you guys are a small business, but you're not a small business, you guys are actually quite successful. Can you share maybe the scale of your, on your website you talk about over 200,000 meals that you ship. You've referenced tens of thousands of meals that you send out. Could you give some of these small business owners an idea of just how pervasive Peachdish is, and maybe tell us, the size and what parts of the country, from a distribution standpoint, you get the most stickiness?
So I think this is a really exciting sort of subject, and let's sort of talk about this. Is the internet doesn't care where you are, but UPS and these other companies make 82 cents on every dollar that you go give them. So it's really, really complicated. But our #1 sign-up state in the past 2 months is California. We actually charge a premium, but we ship all this like fresh local food to California. And it's really because of why are they coming and asking us for, why are all these California people coming and signing up? It's because we've got a great quality product. And so we're shipping about 3 pallets, and a pallet is, if you haven't seen it, it's a sort of 4x4 size, and it sort of goes all the way up. So it's basically sort of part of an aircraft hull. Every week is getting filled up full of our boxes, and then we ship it to California, consolidated, and then from there we have a last mile carrier going distributed. So really, it's because of sort of trying to think outside the box, or someone saying, okay, no, this is going to cost you too much to go and ship. No, Judith's like, no, we shouldn't necessarily ship nationwide because it costs us so much to go ship to California. But if you think, well, is there a way to get around that I can go and leverage something that can get me boxes to California much cheaper? A great company here locally, Delta. Put it on a Delta plane, ship it across. It doesn't cost us as much to go ship. Okay. So I think that's been, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, well, in terms of scale, we're sending out about 25,000 meals a month right now, which is
25,000
meals, not shipments, meals, which is a lot. It's quite a lot for us, and it's growing, and that feels really, really good.
So there's 2 meals to a box, so we have 12,500 users.
There's 4.
4 meals per box.
Yeah. So on average, we're sending out about maybe 1,200 shipments a week, all in all. But I mean, just in terms of scale.
I mean, a small restaurant who's serving 12,000 meals a month would be a very successful restaurant. So, I mean, I think that's pretty impressive in terms of size and scale.
We've got our sights on much higher.
Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, we're down to our last few minutes. I mean, what is the future, to the extent that you can share it with us? Where do you see Peachdish growing? Is it to continue to evolve? Do you look to have multiple outlets? I mean, the internet, like you said, you can be anywhere. But
So look at Peachdish has become a platform. We're really focused on Southern food, and at first we were all over the place with Peachdish. As a brand, we've said Peachdish is focused on providing the best quality Southern food. But and the Southern food can include Vietnamese, because there's some Vietnamese fishermen in Louisiana and also on Buford Highway. It can include all sorts of international foods, but it's really sort of focused on providing these local fresh ingredients to these consumers. As we continue to evolve, one of the things that we're toying with is saying, well, we could also sort of do a really good Mexican meal kit company or a French one, because we've got that technology background. So I think leveraging the existing resources that one has to go and say, okay, well, if you like these types of foods, then you'll also sort of like those. That's something that we're sort of toying with in terms of.
you know, when we see some of the most successful web stores now, I hear that Amazon is actually going to build a store. Do you guys think that you would actually ever take the test kitchen and make it a restaurant?
A brick and mortar store?
A brick and mortar store?
No, but talking
I will hold you to that.
But talking about Amazon, I think there are 2 approaches to Amazon. One is to say there's this 800-pound gorilla. I don't want to do anything with them or not. The other thing is to say, hey, let's go partner with them. Let's go figure out ways to go work with them. Amazon accounts for 30% of online sales, so there's no reason just to go sort of partner with Amazon. So we're toying now with sort of working with Amazon Marketplace.
Oh, okay.
For a special type of products for them.
They have a delivery service now too, right?
They do.
Yes.
So are you guys going to start using drones?
So we've actually we have done some drone work, and and there was actually there was some stuff on Southern Alpha about us using drones, but we're really sort of waiting for the FAA to open it up.
Okay. I'm sorry, there was another question.
Yeah, just one last question. I know we're wrapping up, but a lot of the people here are with us also because we conduct a small business executive roundtable discussion, helping small businesses to grow, get additional customers, grow revenue, so on and so forth. So my question to you, what feedback or advice would you give small businesses as they're trying to continue to grow their business?
So there are lots of different small little internet tricks like feeding Google that you can go and do. And I think I want to sort of use an analogy of David versus Goliath. And we're all these little Davids going and fighting up against these Goliaths. So we all have our small businesses and we're going and fighting up against our competitors. So I think one of the most important things to go do is sort of be personable, have that personal relationship. So if someone writes about one of your competitors, just send them a personal note and say, hey, I'm this David guy, I'm here in Atlanta, I'm doing my thing, let them know about yourself. And then the second thing is another way that can sort of help you jump up and down is why don't you use Google to help you out? So if someone's looking at your competitors' products, let them know about your products. So as well, it's almost your duty, it's your responsibility as a small business owner to let every other customer of your competitors know about your products, because it's important for the consumers to know and experience and have that choice of everything else that's going on. So I think that's really, sometimes small business people are shy of going and saying, hey, I'm around, this is me, look at me. Don't be shy of doing that. It's your responsibility to your own business that you have to let other people know about your business.
So are you saying using Google to do that? Or
Yeah.
would we,
Yeah.
I'm a LinkedIn person, so I think LinkedIn is a good way to do that.
So you can also sort of like, if people search for your competitor's search term in Google, you can advertise right there. So I highly recommend doing that as well. So.
Who's your biggest competitor? And the second question I have is, what do you think is the most valuable form of marketing for you?
So I think our biggest competitor is this 800-pound gorilla called Blue Apron, and they're up in the north, and they sell maybe not happy meat, and then there's sort of some other ones that are sort of coming around, and then sorry, the question was marketing.
Yeah, what have you found is the most valuable form of marketing?
So I think sort of having word of mouth is really, really good. Having a good product really helps with that word of mouth. And then that sort of third thing is really the internet. I mean, we're an internet business, so really being that best friend for other people in terms of having good reviews, helping out other people who don't have problems, and listening to the internet. Because I think the internet, we're all essentially sort of this community. So we all go talk to each other, and making sure that you're going and listening in and having that level of hospitality. And that's really sort of what I had an early team at first, and they're young, really happy and keen, but they didn't really have that hospitality experience. And I think having that hospitality experience of understanding, okay, someone's going to come sit down, we want to make sure they have a clean napkin, asking them, following up, has been really, really crucial to our sort of success as we've scaled and scaled.
And how do you like maintain your customer retention? Because like I've used some of those services before, and they've seemed like the ones that I used that were not so good, no one talks about them anymore, but they were like, in the beginning they were like the main one, they were like before Blue Apron, basically. So how do you ensure that like, that you're gonna be always around and that you keep your customers coming back?
So I think having that quality is really the thing that's been so huge. So like if you live in Atkins, South Carolina, your only grocery store is the Piggly Wiggly. So you don't have special types of bread or tomatoes. And how do you sort of go and differentiate yourself? It's by focusing in on that quality. The other thing that I think sort of ties into something that you're saying, which is that surprise and delight. So every week at Peachdish, you get a surprise. There's a surprise treat in every box. And if you would have ordered a box last week, your treat would have been a popsicle by King of Pops. So it's like make your own popsicle kit, which is really, really cool. So we have some more surprise and delights, and I think those are sort of some of the things that we're doing to get people to sort of keep on coming. Okay, well, what's the surprise this week?
I think also it's really important to respect the relationship. I mean, food is really important. It's the only thing you're ever going to buy that literally becomes who you are. And recognizing that, and recognizing that someone has trusted us to make a food purchase, and that they were counting on us for dinner. So if something goes wrong, really being empathetic and responsive. We're very proactive about making sure that we're tracking shipments, and we're notifying people in advance if it looks like there's a problem. I think that helps. I think food is personal, and I think people want a personal relationship with the people they're buying food from.
Do you think by like educating people more on that kind of like cultural idea and kind of movement where food is important and food is you and it's an important thing to take seriously, do you think that will also help kind of grow your business? Because it seems like those people are already coming towards your business, but there's so many other people who maybe need to be converted. So like,
the other thing that we think about is that food is not a winner-take-all market. It never has been. Look at all of the variety of restaurants and all of the variety of grocery stores. So our strategy is really to put out as excellent a product as we can, and know that the customers who value that will come to us and find it.
And don't you think, just to dovetail on that thought, when you send out your meal kits, there's the letter that identifies where the sourcing came, so it puts a name with the green beans. So it makes the consumer closer to the purveyor. And it's like, oh, that's just like Ryder, that's the next town over. Or that's a town where my aunt grew up. So it gives you a kinship towards the product, even though you might not realize that you know who the farmer is. So that also echoes these are really good ingredients, people. So that's also part of why the people keep coming back, because even though I don't know what I'm going to like, I now know how to cook Japanese eggplant, where I didn't know how to cook it before. And so I'm very thankful. I have really good knife skills and very good cooking and baking skills, but I didn't know how to cook very specific things to make them tasty in a way that would surprise and delight me.
So it's really the people aspects to it, and I think that comes back to that beginning thing in terms of the founder. Founder is showing those people, and it's all those people who I had on the website. It was just me, but I had these beautiful people as well there. So it's really the people, and the people who you go and touch all the way throughout the food process, from production to packaging, to shipping, to delivery and consumption.
So we're just about out of time. We have time for maybe one more question. I do want to thank everyone. We don't have a hard stop, but Maxine and the small business collaboration is, we will also be in this space, and hopefully Judith and Hadi will hang around for a few moments to network. But we do have time for maybe one more question. Are there any more questions from the audience? If not, I want to take this time to thank you again, Peachdish. Initially, we only had a few questions that were submitted online, but there were actually quite a few questions that came from the audience. So I don't know that we thought about exactly how to do the giveaways. So we spoke earlier, so maybe what I can do is if I can get everyone to, make sure you signed in, and then I can we can huddle and talk about the best strategy, because there were quite a few questions. We do have the tape, and then what will happen is that once we make a determination, we'll send it to you, because I don't think they actually brought the products that they want to disseminate to the group with them. They do have some samples though over there for you to review. If you aren't familiar with the product itself and the basket, please take a look. But I would ask that everyone do sign in. I have a list here for the name, your name and the name of your business and your contact information, and then I'll work with Judith and Hadi to determine exactly how we get those gift baskets out. Okay? Thank you again.
Thank you.